The new Chartered Accountant of Singapore designation. From talking to CFOs here, there's a bit of questions about that. I mean, why do you need to have this new designation when you already have a lot of them here in Singapore ICPAS and all these other guys?
We go back to the CDAS report once again for what we call the Singapore Qualification Program. And that's under recommendation number 1.
Okay.
As a developed nation, we're probably the last one off the block in terms of having a professional program. So the CDAS report unequivocally said that we should and we must have a postgraduate professional accountancy qualification program. And so SAC is really to execute and to implement that vision that is in the CDAS report. There were a lot of stakeholders in formulating the CDAS report. I mean, hundreds of people were interviewed, and and the final report came out that yes, we need to have this program, but we all know that the devil is in the implementation. To be honest with you, we struggle with the name. Should we continue with CPA?
Yeah.
Should we call ourselves Chartered Accountant of Singapore? No, the Canadians call themselves Chartered Professional Accountants, also called CPA. I mooted a new designation, called ourselves Singapore Professional Accountants, but SPA wasn't going to make it, so I said, would you like to SPA? I said, no, forget it. But it was really part of the conversation, and we had a transitionary panel that was formed, and that was headed by Uantchern, chairman of PwC. And on the panel, we have CFOs, we have Hon Chew, CFO of Singapore Airlines, we have representation from the universities, from industry, from practice. And this transitional panel debated the name, and in that transition document, you can download from the website, there are 18 recommendations on how we deal with this transition from what we have, the CPA Singapore, and to the Chartered Accountant of Singapore designation. And these transition recommendations were very carefully thought through so that it will be fair to everybody.
Mm-hmm. And as I understand it, if you are qualified as a CA and a member of the ICPAS, you will automatically become this new designation. Is that how it works?
Yeah, well, the good news is that all existing CPA Singapore title holders, it's about 18,000 of us, myself included.
Okay.
Next week on 2nd of July, you will all be known as Chartered Accountants of Singapore. You receive your new certificate in the mail, or you probably be asked to go and collect it.
Okay.
And in fact, now we are now looking at the design of the certificate and what it says, whose logo and who will sign on it. Okay. You won't see my signature on it, so don't worry. But that's part of the transition. And for 18,000 of us, it will cost you nothing to be a Chartered Accountant of Singapore. Okay. And we did debate, should this 18,000 be made to go through the exams? And that, a lot of horror looked, Uantchern, you're joking.
Okay.
So I wouldn't do it myself.
Okay.
So we made a decision, and we took cues from other countries. When Hong Kong did their QP, and Hong Kong is also called the Hong Kong QP, and when they did their QP back in 1999, that's 14 years ago, and they also transitioned from the old to the new. In the past, they had two titles. They were either called CPAs, for those with a practicing license, or public accountants, and there were also those who were called registered accountants or RAs. Back in 2004, if I'm not wrong, they transitioned all the RAs into CPAs without having to take their QP. So we took a cue from that and said, look, that seems to be all right. And we visited Hong Kong last June, we learned from them. I recently came back from Australia. We also look at the ICAA, we look at CP Australia. We have been in deep talks with ICW. I guess the good thing for Singapore is that we are able to learn from what has been done by everybody, and hopefully our QP program will stand toe-to-toe with the rest of the professional programs around the world.
So what does it make of people who have like an ACCA designation, a CIMA designation, they have not joined up with ICPAS, but they might want to. Do they need then to go through all of these exams?
Yeah, there are transitionary arrangements right now. Like for example, under transition number 8 and 9, if you are ACCA or CIMA or CP Australia title holders or ICAW, there are 10 of these titles in the Accountants Act under Schedule 3. You are able to transition from now to 2016. So there's a huge window for you to be a CA Singapore without having to take the Singapore QP. And this transition process from now to 2016, you of course have to take the 5-day pre-admission course in ICPAS, or next week they'll be known as the Institute of Singapore Chartered Accountant, ISCA, and you're a chartered accountant.
Okay, but after 2016, what happens?
So there's a few transitionary dates. After 2016 is then the full QP kicks in. Then for those who want to be a CA Singapore, you have to then take the full QP. But you know, we're quite gratified. Let me share with you. Under transition number 11 for accountancy students in Singapore in the 4 local universities, NUS, NTU, UNISIM, and SMU, we have given them a very generous transition arrangement. For most of them, and those who don't have to do NS, they can go through the existing route to be a CA Singapore up to 2016. Meaning that this year's graduates, next year's graduates, up to 2016's graduates in accountancy don't have to do the Singapore QP, and they can be a CA Singapore by taking the 5-day pre-admission course. And for those boys who are doing national service, they have up to 2018 to go through this existing route. But you know, guess what? This year's graduates, a lot of them are signed up for the QP, even though they don't have to do it. KPMG submitted 104 names, PW 100 names, Deloitte about 50 names. So a lot of them are saying that, look, it's something worthwhile doing, even though we're not, it's not compulsory. But so far now we've got almost 300 people committed to doing the Singapore QP this year, and exams are in December. And we're quite happy, you know, a little bit happy, because compared to Hong Kong, when they started their QP back in 1999, they had 90 candidates. 90, so we have 300, so we're a little bit better. But Hong Kong now every year has 3,000 candidates, so now we're behind again. But we can't always look at the history and say we are a little bit better, but now we're behind. We can only look forward and say we hope that we can be better. I mean, Australia, when I was there a couple of weeks ago, the chartered program, they have 3 semesters a year. Every semester there's 7,000 candidates. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Will we hit 7,000 a semester? Ours is a dual semester system. I don't know. But 300 at first go, I think that's a good encouragement. And I really do encourage all of you to look at the Singapore QP as a great program. I think it's a unifying program, not just from the technical qualification, but many of us who have gone through professional programs like this will appreciate the camaraderie, having to work together, study groups, workshops, complain about exams, and those kind of bonding, money can't buy. And I think that will place us in good state in Singapore.
Okay. Again, just to be clear in my mind, if I am an ACCA and a CIMA, and after 2016, I don't feel like actually getting the Singapore designation, I am perfectly okay. That's perfectly okay, right? That my ACCA designation will be recognized by Singapore?
The Singapore QP is a postgraduate program. So if you look at the CDAS report, it's very clear that we will need a degree to take the Singapore QP.
Okay. So in other words, the ACCA would be considered a degree that will make me eligible to sit for the Singapore designation.
At this juncture, we are not looking at the ACCA as a degree.
Okay. And would you be looking at designating ACCA, CIMA, and all these other institutes on par with ICPAS as a body that can designate people as accountants?
Well, there are changes to the Accountants Act. If you look at the current CPA Singapore title right now, It has full mutual recognition with two professional bodies, ACCA and CPA Australia, meaning that if you are, say, an ACCA title holder, you can become a CPA Singapore by attending the 5-day pre-admission course.
Okay.
And if you want to be a practicing accountant under ACRA, you must be a CPA Singapore title holder or member IGPAS. So you're not member IGPAS, but you're a member ACCA, you can do that right now. So we're looking at all these transitionary changes to the Accountants Act so that the recognition for the various professional bodies will be in place.
Okay. I have a Ronald Reagan conservative question here. Ronald Reagan said the most frightening thing one can hear is, I am from the government and I'm here to help. Is Singapore doing too much?
You know, to be honest with you, this is my first job in the public sector. You know, I've never worked in the public sector before. When my boss, Michael Lim, asked me to do this, I said, why? Why would you want me to do this very, very difficult task? You know, SAC, there is no equivalent in the rest of the world. I found that out very quickly. And so with that, people ask, so why is the SAC doing this? And isn't that a too heavy hand? And truth be told, if the market is thriving and doing what it's supposed to do, I will be out of job. And when I first took on this job, my mandate is to make myself and the SAC our job. So we will do things to promote, to champion, to push along, to nurture, to develop, to implement things which the accountancy sector wants, not what the government wants. And if this is what the accountancy sector wants, but either through lack of resources or lack of time, cannot coordinate, our job here is to sit down and coordinate and get things done. To all the CFOs, internal audit, risk management, external auditors, these are all really my boss. I'm here to serve the accountancy sector. And if you look at all the programs that we're doing, the heavy hand or strong touch of the sector is everywhere. We literally have hundreds of people in our councils, our committees, and we stand directed by them. If you look at the Singapore CFO Institute, that's chaired by Uantchern Loh, who gave the opening speech yesterday.
Yes.
CFO of Singapore Exchange. And on the council, we have a whole host of CFOs, Capo TNT, Philips, ComfortDelGro, StarHub, and these are people who tell us what to do, and we listen very closely to them. And all the programs that we develop are directed strategically by these advisory councils. And we do this, and in fact, we have 5 advisory councils. One of them is the Singapore CFO Institute. We have a Center of Excellence Advisory Council. For that, the Center of Excellence is looking at things like internal audit, risk management, business valuation, international tax. And we have Advisory Council, of course, on the Singapore QP. We recently formed 2 more advisory councils. One of them is on productivity. So this productivity is a huge thing. And you will be seeing more of it. If you look at the MPCEC, the National Productivity Council, the accountancy sector is one of the last 3 sectors out of 16 to be included in the government's drive to improve productivity. And finally, we have a research council that we've established, and this headed by Professor Jillian Yu at NTU. And we got practitioners, we got academics on the research council. And this is where, if we want the accountancy sector to be a global accountancy hub in Singapore. People ask me, what do you mean by a global accountancy hub? To me, one of the traits of being a global accountancy hub is where we must have thought leadership. It is where we must say things which will be inspiring. We must do research on areas which will result in common good for the rest of the world. So this is where we want to work with IFAC and professional bodies around the world, and also in Singapore, where we want to promote thought leadership. So we have hopefully a strong research team in addition to the rest of the practice tracks.
Excellent.
Thank you.